wanted to do a little panel segment here, and so here we are. We're going to jump right in. We have some questions for these ladies, but I want to tell you who they are first, and so that y'all can tell them hi back, okay? Because, like, it's really intimidating to, like, sit in front of a bunch of girls, but they're all professionals, so it's good. That was a joke. You can laugh. You can. There it goes. There. Thank you, Miss Rebecca. I need you on the front row laughing hard.
She was the most excited about the giveaways.
Let's go.
And she won.
Pep rally winner right there. Noted. Miss Rebecca, keep the hype. I had a comedian come and speak at our legacy banquet last year, and I put Rebecca right in front of him because she always brings the energy, and she's so full of joy and love, and she's just so amazing. Okay, so here, you're going to start over here. This is Ellie. Everybody say hi, Ellie.
Hi, Ellie.
So Ellie is my nanny for all four of my multitude. I was going to say wild, but I'm trying to not speak that over them anymore. So we're going to clean that up. Amazing, lovely, well-behaved, kind, quiet children. And she's 17 years old, and I have her up there because I just admire her so much. Like, I don't know if you've ever had somebody younger than you that you're like, man, I wish I was you when I was younger. Okay, that's Ellie. The way she is with her peers, the way she is so responsible. Like, Ellie is at my house every Friday night, 6 o'clock on the dot. Sunday morning, what'd I just change your time to, like 7? 7 a.m. And she's 17 years old, junior in high school. But she cares for my kids every single week, multiple times a week, so that we can be passive and lead and have date night and do all the things. But she's never late. She never calls in sick. She never just doesn't show up. I think one time in 2 years, you overslept or your phone wasn't on the charger. And, like, that was it. But she is so responsible. Like, all you young girls in the room, look at Ellie. If you need a role model, look no further. Next, we have my friend, Sarah. Sarah Grant, I love you so much. She's like the ultimate encourager. She just is like always encouraging. I'm like, your faith is so big. And when I told her about Church Girl, and I was like, dude, what am I going to do with all these people signing up? Like, she's like, expect bigger. I'm like, no. Chill, girl, chill. Stop praying for me. Like, for it to grow bigger. I'm like, chill. But you're always so encouraging and so uplifting, and I'm just definitely so grateful for your friendship. And whenever I told her about Church Girl, I didn't know she was, like, on the sly, but she bought a ticket from Philly to be here. And she's like, I'm coming to be with you. I'm like, stop it right now. And she's like, no, I'm serious. Because if you know Sarah, well, you know, she ain't trying to travel alone. No. She really ain't trying to travel. She's trying to do all that stuff from the house that she can do. But I know it's such a sacrifice, and this is so stretching for you to come and bring baby Dream. Whenever you see the baby rolling around, she gets special privileges because she's from Philly and she's a guest, okay? Well, y'all are all guests, I guess. But now you're not, because once you come once, now you're no longer a guest, you're family. So no more. But we're so thankful for you, and I love you so much. Pastor Tiffany, I love you. I'm so grateful that you said yes. You could have said no.
It was an honor to be invited.
Stop it, don't make me cry.
I didn't want to miss it. I didn't want to miss being with your church family, with the women of your community, with the women who were drawn to this event, that your yes extended to them and their yes, and it's beautiful.
Thank you for being here. Pastor Tiffany, she has kids that are older than mine, and I'm like, okay, what do I do? And so I'm like, okay, how do we navigate these conversations? How do we, like that morning at breakfast, I'm like, just tell me all the things I need to know. And like sometimes when I'm struggling in ministry, I will just text her and be like, girl, encourage me, tell me what to do, just as a mentor, really. And in close proximity, Her and her husband pastor a church in Oklahoma City called Peoples.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's so great. If you're ever visiting in the city or maybe you're here from the city, I definitely encourage you to go there. The live campus is Britton Road.
Yes.
They have
Yes.
several campuses. They just launched another one a couple months ago in
They did.
Edmond. So anybody that lives in the city that needs a church, send them to Peoples because they're so great.
Oh, yes. We will welcome you with open arms.
Okay, girls, we're going to jump right in to some questions. Are y'all ready?
Ready.
These are like hot seats. All right, Ellie, I'm going to start with you. What would you tell young girls who are struggling to fit in because they follow Jesus?
Okay, so this has been something that I've pretty much dealt with since being saved. I think, honestly, it's hard to, like, kind of get this way, but I think you have to learn how to take that sort of thing as a compliment. Like, it's a compliment that they don't see you as a partier or, like, whatever it may be, that you're exhibiting walking with Jesus so well that they're able to see that on the outside, and, yeah, learning how to take it as a compliment.
That's powerful.
Wow.
That's so good.
It's really good.
All right, Sarah, working in a secular workplace, how do you find a way to fit in your Christian values, like bringing that with you?
To the work. Thank you for that question. So I have an 8-year-old daughter. Her name is Amela Falashade, and I really just love her. And to me, Amela Falashade is actually to meet her father. And so whenever people will meet Amela at church or anywhere, they're like, she looks just like her dad, and she acts just like her father. And so with that question, it just makes me think of, whenever I am at work, it's like I am my father's daughter. I am the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords' daughter. And no matter whether I am in a grocery store, whether I am in a nail salon, whether I am at work, or whether I am at church, I am always gonna be my father's daughter. And I even think about, leaving Nigeria in 96. And as I'm leaving, my grandfather just said to me, he's like, remember who you are. Remember the family that you come from. So although he was back home and I'm going to America, it doesn't matter where I am at on this planet. I'm always going to be my father's daughter. And so Amela not only looks like her father, she acts like her father. I mean, like, break out into dance just like her daddy. And the truth is, when you go into her DNA, her father is also represented there. And what does that mean? Those private practices. So when I'm at work, it's not something I just put on, but my private practice, it overflows into every room. So that DNA, that blood, it all represent, like, who my daddy is, who my father is. And some people may never step into Accelerate Church. Some people may never step into any church, but when they meet Sarah, I want them to know, like, what it looks like to be a daughter of the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And then when they come to church, they're like, oh, wow, that's a king's daughter.
That's so good. I love that. All right, Pastor Tiffany, I got one for you. How do you kill the spirit of jealousy or competition you face, and what advice would you give, and how to do that?
So jealousy is very layered. But when you think about it, jealousy leads to all kinds of destruction. You think about Jacob and Esau in Scripture, the destruction that it brought in their relationship, in their family. Jealousy, it brings destruction not only in your emotions, but in your mind, even in your physical body. You will feel the effects of jealousy. And so I think, first of all, you have to acknowledge that those behaviors are actually present. And we've all dealt with it. I mean, I have dealt with jealousy. I mean, even now in my 46th year of life, there are moments that I have to stomp out jealousy. And I think one of the key ways to do it, after you acknowledge it, is actually this thought just came to me sitting here on the couch yesterday. My 18-year-old son called and he said, "Mom, I'm kind of feeling under the weather," and he had prom last night. So he was like, "Can you go and get me?" He loves these orange juice drinks that are called Defense Up. They're from Starbucks. He loves them. He's like, "Can you get me 2 of those? Because I need to get something in my body because I'm feeling under the weather." And I think about so many things. When we have a broken bone, we get it set. When we have an illness, oftentimes we get medication. And I think we need to counteract jealousy with the thing that will heal it, which is not only repenting and putting it before the Lord, but counteracting it with celebration in the very thing that you're jealous of, okay? So if you're jealous of another woman and what you think her life is like, you don't know that it really is, but the idea that that is what her life is like, instead of letting the seed of jealousy enter your heart, celebrate what is happening in her life and just trust the Lord for what he's going to do and is doing in your life. Sometimes we don't even see what God is doing in our life because we are too focused on what we think is happening in someone else's life.
That's so good. Woo. That's so good. All right, Elle. Hot seat again. So I know you don't currently have a boyfriend, right? Because we talk about these things.
We do.
Okay.
We do.
I like to think that I'm included on all of her.
No, she
like,
knows
life.
everything.
Like-
Everything.
But previously and even moving forward, like, how do you set boundaries with boyfriends? Because, you know, you're on a goal of purity and all the things. How do you set boundaries to know, like, I'm not going past here, like, all the things?
Yeah, I think this is such an important question. I think I kind of had like we'll cross that bridge when we get there mindset, and I would so strongly discourage that. It's a really risky way of looking at it. I think by setting boundaries early on, not only does it, one, set the boundary, but it also shows you what his intentions are and priorities are. Because if you set these boundaries and then he's like, "Peace out," well, then you know what he was actually there for. And I think that, you know, purity is such an important thing, and we protect things that are valuable, and it's such a valuable thing, and that's why it needs to be protected so well. And I think another thing, too, you know, finding a guy who also values his purity and, you know, wants to lead you guys in protecting that, that's so important. It makes it so much easier, too. And, yeah, just knowing that, like, it's so worth it, and God's going to bless that in the covenant of marriage. And, yeah, that's
She gonna make me cry.
Sarah and I both want to take her home with us. We're going to fight for her.
No, you can't have her. I'm sorry.
Thank
I
you.
need her. I've got 3 girls. I'm raising 3 girls. Okay. No, seriously.
Aw.
Okay, Sarah. What advice would you give to your younger self? If you had to choose one piece of strong advice.
Whew. There is so much that I wish I can go back and say to Sarah Titilayo Ogundele, right? That's who I was before I became married, right? One of the things that I would go back and say to her is that God has not changed his mind about you. There's so many things that happens along the way. Yes, you went to church every Sunday and your grandparent took you or your parent took you, but you didn't always get things right and you just feel like, man, is God mad with me? Have I fallen out of his grace? Does he still love me? the plans that he had for me while I was in my mother's womb, are those plans still the same? So I would say to Sarah, like, God has not changed his mind about you. I will also say to her that you can trust God at his word, because he is a man. He does not go back on his word. His word does not return back to him void. So you can trust him. Everything that he said, he will bring it to pass. So I will remind her, trust in the Lord with all of your heart. Trust in the Lord with all of your might. And just know that there is still so much more to learn about God. And so while as a child I may have known him as a protector, at some point in my life I'm going to learn to know him as a provider. At some point I'm going to learn to know him as a promise keeper. At some point I'm going to learn to know him as a healer. So Sarah, I know all you can see is just this right now, but there is so much more to your Father. I know it's a lot that I'm saying, but just one more thing I want to share with each one of you is that I would say to Sarah, everything that you have said to disqualify yourself, it is a lie. I'm not tall enough. I'm not short enough. I'm not pretty enough. My English is not clear enough. My hair is not long enough. I remember coming to America, and like the school I went to, we had to get like a boy cut. So I remember coming in to America and I see all the girls with barrettes and stuff in their hair and long hair, and it's just like, oh. So it's like, wow, the things I thought would matter and would just count me out. And one of it was, I remember just having a lot of scars in my body. And every time I would go to the doctor, I'm like, the cocoa butter is not working. I need something stronger. Because I just thought that because my skin wasn't clear enough, I was never going to find a man to marry me. And I met a man that loved me. And I remember one day just asking, like, have you ever seen the scars on my leg and on my face and on my body? Because that kept the younger Sarah up. And my husband is like, what are you even talking about? I remember the years of not being able to read, and I would cry myself to sleep, and the anxiety that would go with me into my classrooms, praying that the teacher never call on me to read out loud. But yet, if I tell you all the things that God has done in and through me, we will be here for a very long time. So all the things that I had in my head to disqualify me, that just made me felt like I was never going to get somewhere, all of those things don't matter. And because God loved me, and because he's the one that has written my story and is still writing my story, it's like he's got me. So much to say to her, but that's what I would say to her today.
So good. All right, Pastor Tiffany. What should I do when I feel like someone's treating me badly or trying to make me feel bad on purpose?
So I think one of the things that is so helpful to almost, instead of take the pain on yourself, flip it and try to see the pain inside of them. It's one of the things that I taught my kids from a young age as they started school, and, things start to happen on the playground or feelings start to get hurt. What happens there, it happens in adulthood too. And I would often tell my kids, I know, mommy sometimes still goes through hard things like this. But we need to know that people act out of their pain. And so just know that that individual who's making you feel bad, who is causing pain in your heart, there is a good likelihood that they have been hurt too, and they're responding out of their hurt. There is a good chance that they're coming from a painful situation, and they don't know how to have healthy relationships. And so I think for us as Christ followers, man, it's hard. It is hard to feel the pain, but there is something powerful about choosing to, instead of let the pain settle in, to instead show Christ-likeness to the other person. And it's their choice if they receive it, or if they turn that back on you. But I tell my kids all the time, you have a responsibility to control your attitude, to control your choices, to control how you treat people. You can't control other people. And just to know that pain is an indicator that they need the love of Christ, and God can use you, God can use me, God can use all of us to be an extension of God's love. And oftentimes, when we meet people in their pain with God's love, over time, beautiful things happen. So, yeah.
So good.
Okay, I've got one more question for each of you, and then we're going to go back into worship. But Ellie, as a follower of Jesus, we know that like high school is hard. Anybody remember high school? Middle school? Just your childhood? Maybe you experienced this at your workplace, and Ellie can mentor us up.
Yeah.
How have you dealt with gossip and drama among your peers? What does that look like?
So, I was kind of thinking about this question earlier, and I think in high school, it's almost like we bond with other girls over the people that we don't like. It's like the one thing that we can find in common with people is, oh, we both don't like them. And I think there's a lot of ways that you can go about it to not indulge or engage in it or just shut it down completely. But they're all really hard. Like, they're all a little awkward, and they're all a little difficult to say. I think the most important step is having the discernment of, this isn't a fruitful conversation. Like, this is now turned into gossip. And then once we realize that, how do we go about it? So I have like 3, scenarios that I've used a few times, and they're all awkward. I'm not gonna lie. Like, but the first one is just completely being quiet or excusing yourself, even if it's like, I gotta go to the bathroom, even if you don't. It's so much better than indulging in it. And even nodding your head in agreement, that still counts as gossiping. So literally, if you just have to shut down, like, that's okay. Another one is, trying to change the subject, like, get it on a different thing. I think the thing with gossip is there's so many more important conversations and important topics and fruitful conversations we could be having, and we're wasting our time by using that time of conversation to gossip. And then another one is being bold enough to fully say, hey, we're gossiping about this person. And that is a really hard thing to do, but, having that discernment and then being bold in your faith to, even if it's going to make those other people feel like, oh, she's judging us, or, that's the conviction of the Lord. It's not your own conviction. But yeah, I think that we need to be going to God in prayer about them more than we are to our friends and gossip about them.
So good. She's going to preach one day. I can feel her coming to y'all's panels soon. All right, Sarah. Why should you forgive? Whoever it is that needs to be forgiven, why should you forgive? Like, why should we choose forgiveness?
I think it's important to acknowledge the fact that forgiveness is hard. It doesn't matter who you are, a pastor, a doctor, it doesn't matter what degrees you have. You can be a counselor, a therapist, and still struggle with forgiveness. It's important to forgive because when you don't, it's almost like eating poison and expecting that the other person is the one that is sick or that something happens to, but you're the one that's eating it.
Wow. Good.
And a lot of time it's important to forgive because while you're still holding on to it and you're not getting out of bed, and it is the the track record that's playing in your mind over and over again, just turn on your social media. You'll see they are living their best lives while you are in prison. But it's important to forgive because our Father asks us to forgive. That's the most important thing. And He's asking us to do it, and in order for you to be able to do it, you have to invite Jesus into it. Lord, I know you want me to forgive him, her, them. It could be a whole family. Like, did we have to have that conversation at Thanksgiving again? Like, how many different ways do I have to try to explain this thing to you? You're not understanding. You didn't take my side. So it's like, do it, but ask God to help you with it, because that's the only way you're going to do it. You're going to be able to forgive. Because what's going to happen is when you do it in your own power, all it takes is just a trigger. And you're back to square one again. And so forgive because our Father asks us to do so, and knowing that with him, all things are possible, and he'll help you to do it.
So good. Sometimes forgiveness is so hard. And something I've learned too is like, sometimes it's not like I forgive and like move on. I have to like wake up every day and be like, oh, I choose to forgive today. Like today, I choose to forgive. Tomorrow, I'll have to deal with that again. Tomorrow, like choose to forgive every single day.
Yeah, you see them again, it's like you just whispered in your mind, I forgive you.
Yes, yes.
I really do.
Whisper it in their face. I forgive you. No, I'm just
I
kidding.
forgive you.
Say it till you believe it.
Okay, so Tiffany, since I'm always going to you, I feel like for my kids, and you're like, I always say like so much further than me with children. How do you encourage your kids when they're struggling with whatever they're struggling with in that moment? How do you encourage them?
So first of all, I let them know they're not alone. I think so often when we're struggling, we can feel like we're the only ones feeling it, that we shouldn't feel what we're feeling. There's shame sometimes, depending on what the struggle is. So I feel like for me, the biggest thing I want my kids to know is that you don't have to endure this alone. If you do, it's your choice. But you can go to the Father, and you can come to me. My husband always tells my kids, you can come to me as well. And I just want them to know that we all go through hard things. We live in a fallen world. We are flesh. Attacks of the enemy are coming at us. And so I just want my kids to know, yeah, this right now, it feels like a lot, but if you are diligent to go through this experience, to let God teach you what he can teach you in this experience, you are going to come out stronger, more equipped for what God has for you, what he has called you to. Because I tell my kids all the time, you are created by God and he has called you to something special. I speak those words over my kids all the time, not for them to feel pressure that they have to perform, but that they know that there is something that God has put inside of them that if they steward it well, that it's going to bear beautiful fruit. But more than anything, I just always want my kids to know you're not alone. Like, you need people. We all need people in our struggle. You need each other in your struggle. You need a church family when you're enduring a struggle. It makes all the difference.
That's so good. Would y'all help me just thank these girls for coming up and talking to us, talking through some of the things that we go through probably every single day. You can